He tells his child, stop, to stay right here, and listen to him. It is over for them. The pain, the fear, the confusion, the battles, the silent storms, the heaviness that has followed them so long. It ends now, and their new beginning starts the very moment these words touch their heart. The Lord is speaking directly, not by chance, nor by luck, nor by accident, but by divine intention. Heaven itself has placed this message in front of them because their spirit is standing on the edge of a shift they have cried and waited for. They did not find this. He brought this to them because it's time. His child. He slowed their steps. He stopped their scroll, quieting their thoughts for this exact moment. Heaven pauses when the Lord speaks like this. Angels stop moving and lean close, knowing what he is about to release into their life. They know the weight of this moment. They know the power these words carry. They know destiny is opening and the old season is losing its grip. Can they feel the stillness around them? That pause in the atmosphere, that sudden pull in their spirit. That is him. That is his presence sitting beside them, guiding their eyes to these lines, wrapping around their heart with holy urgency. Do not scroll. Do not move. They should not turn away now because this is no ordinary message. This is a divine intervention. He stepped into their day. He entered their timeline. He entered their thoughts because their soul needed to hear him now. They have been walking with unanswered questions. They have been breathing through pain they did not understand. They have carried wounds that no one saw. They smiled while breaking apart inside, and he watched it all, feeling every tear, hearing every silent cry, holding every shaking breath they did not know how to steady. He could not let his child take another step without stopping them to sigh. It is over. The waiting is over. The battle is over. The cycle is over. The season, soft music that tormented your heart, the confusion that darkened your thoughts, the fear that gripped your chest at night. It is finished. Heaven has made a decision concerning are you, and when heaven decides nothing on earth can stop it. When I say something is over, it cannot continue. When I close a chapter, no man, no enemy, no person, no force can reopen it. They have wandered through a long night, a peaceful pause. They survived storms that tried to take them out. They endured seasons of pain that others would have collapsed under. They kept going with an empty heart. They carried trauma in their chest and still managed to rise each day. The Lord saw it all. Now because they refused to give up, because they held on even when they were shaking, because they embraced hope even when it felt small, heaven offers them a new beginning. This message marks their line between what was and what will be. This is their crossing point, a quiet pause. This is where the old loses its authority and the new takes its place. Something holy is shifting around them. Right now, they may not see it with their eyes yet, but their spirit feels it. A gentle warmth, that sudden calm, that strange sense that something has changed. That is his presence touching them. That is his hand reaching into the credo, the deepest part of their soul, saying, you are safe now. You are free now. You are entering a new beginning. There is a reason they paused here, a quiet pause. There is a reason their heart leaned in. There is a reason they felt something, pulling them to keep reading. They have reached the moment heaven wrote for them long before they were born, a moment where their story turns, a moment where restoration begins. This is the moment old chains break, a moment where their true identity rises. Anif, a moment when the completely impossible suddenly feels possible. They must not ignore this moment. They cannot brush this off as just another message. As his child, the Lord is speaking now, and he speaks because they are stepping out of something heavy and stepping into something holy. They have wept enough. They have fought enough. They have questioned enough. They have struggled enough. They have survived enough. Now it is time to live. It is time to breathe again. It is time to feel joy without fear. It is time to walk without carrying everything on their shoulders. It is time for a fresh start, a beginning written by his hands, not their pain. Their new beginning does not come tomorrow. It does not come next week. It does not come someday. It begins now with these words, with this moment, with this breath. Heaven has declared it. The shift has already started. They stepped into their new season. The second they paused for this message. Do they feel the break in the atmosphere? That is the sound of their old season collapsing. That is the sound of chains falling. That is the sound of their heart being lifted by his love. He is wiping away the old. He is clearing the path. He is breaking the cycle. He is silencing the lies. He is removing the shadows. He is healing the wounds. He is restoring the strength you thought you lost forever. He is giving you your life back, and not the life you had before. A better one, a whole one, a blessed one. But his child, hear him clearly. Stay with him. Do not scroll. Let's not rush past this moment. One more second of hesitation could delay what he has opened for you. You are standing at the doorway of a new season. Do not walk away now. Let him finish what he started in this moment. Let him speak into the places you kept hid. Let him rebuild you from the inside out. Let him bring you into the life he always intended for you. Stay with him. The new beginning you prayed for is unfolding as you read. Say Amen. His love restores you as he has healed your brokenness. His child, come closer and listen to him with a calm heart, because he is declaring something over your life that heaven has already sealed. It's over. The attacks, the loneliness, the disappointment, the delay, the fear that stayed longer than it should, the nights that broke you in silence, the weight that sat on your chest, the confusion that stole your peace. That entire season, the one that drained you, tested you, stretched you, and left you feeling empty. It is finished. The Lord speaks directly to them, so their hearts can finally rest and know that they are not returning to what once hurt them. Their old season has reached its appointed bride. They walked through a long, painful chapter that few people ever understood. They carried their burdens quietly, smiling while their soul was crying. There were days they told themselves they were fine, even when they were trembling. Inside, they endured storms that no one noticed. Storms inside their mind, storms inside their heart, storms that made them question their worth, their purpose, their hope, even their future. They survived things that would have crushed others, and they did it with little support, with little understanding from those around them, and with almost no strength left inside them. Yet still they got up. Still they kept going. Still they pressed forward even when they didn't know how. And because they endured, because they did not give up, because they continued to seek him, even when it felt like he was silent. He is now declaring the end of that long chapter. He is closing it himself. Another day of that pain will not follow them into their new beginning. The season that hurt them is not allowed to touch what he is opening for them next. The enemy does not get to repeat old cycle. The wounds of the past do not get to reopen. The disappointments that once shaped their nights do not belong where they are going. The Lord is placing a barrier between their yesterday and their tomorrow. They ask him, Lord, how can you say it is over when I still feel traces of it? And he answers them with truth. Seasons end in heaven before they end on earth. Breakthroughs are born in the spiritual realm before they manifest in the natural world. Freedom begins in the unseen before it shows up in their emotions. They have already stepped out spiritually. They simply haven't felt the full shift yet. But he wants them to believe this. He ended it in heaven long before they felt the shift on earth. The moment he spoke the words, the storm lost its power. The moment he declared the change, the darkness was broken. The moment heaven closed the season, Earth began moving in alignment with what he decreed. They are catching up to what heaven has already done. Their heart is adjusting to a freedom that was already released. Their spirit is learning how to breathe again after years of carrying burdens that were too heavy for them. They are beginning to feel life again, hope again, peace again, not because things around them changed yet, but because something inside them is waking up. They feel it even if faintly. The heaviness is loosening. In the stillness, the noise is softening. The confusion is clearing. The soul knows something has shifted. God says he wants them to understand this. No old battle will cross into their new beginning. What tried to destroy them in the last season has no access to the one he is opening. The enemy that tormented their heart, the voice that lied to them, the fear that chained them, the disappointment that hardened them, none of it is allowed to follow them. The atmosphere shifts. The door behind them has closed, and he has sealed it with his hand. Nothing from their past season has permission to enter their new one. The relationships that drained them will not enter. The cycles that exhausted them will not repeat. The emotional storms will not return. The doors that shut were meant to shut. The endings that hurt were necessary endings. He knows there were days they asked him why certain things collapsed. They questioned why certain people walked away. They asked why certain opportunities died in their hands. They wondered why certain hopes fell apart when they had given everything they could. But for them, every ending was a divine act of protection. He was clearing the old season, even when they did not understand. He was pulling things away that could not go with them where he is taking them. He was cutting ties that would have chained them. He was removing what would have weakened them. The Lord was pruning their life for growth they could not yet see. Now that pruning is over. Now the storm has ended. Now their waiting is done. They have stepped into something new, something holy written for them, long before pain touched their life. God is wiping away the final remnants of that old chapter, so they never return to it in their heart, in their mind, or in their spirit. Every message shared is meant to bring believers closer to God. If this ministry brings peace to your heart, you can bless this mission with support through super thanks. This kindness means more than words. The Lord wants to touch those places that still tremble. He wants to calm the memories that still hurt. He wants to heal the scars, reminding them of their battles. A gentle pause. The Lord speaks to their very deepest parts and says, "It is over. They can rest now. They are no longer just surviving. They are not walking through fire anymore. They are no longer fighting for breath. He is lifting the weight off their shoulders. He is restoring what that old season stole from them, their peace, their identity, their confidence, their joy, their end in strength and clarity. And they must truly understand they are not who they were in that season. The storm changed them. The pain matured them. The loneliness deepened them. Those trials purified them. They are stronger now. They are wiser now. They are spiritually awake now. And now that the season ends, they see why they walked through it. They see why God kept them from breaking. They finally understand why he waited for this moment to deliver them. Their new chapter begins clean, fresh, untouched by the past, free from the weight that hurt them, free from the lies told to them, free from the fear controlling them, free from the doubts holding them. The Lord wiped the slate clean. He washed the path behind them. He cleared the dark shadows haunting them. Now they can finally breathe. They lift their head. They place their hand in his. They step into a new beginning, where nothing from the past can interfere. The page has turned. The chapter is closed. The season is finished. And nothing, absolutely nothing, follows them into the life he is opening right before them. They walk with him. The old is gone. The new has begun. They sit with their Lord now, close, quietly, as he speaks to them about the weight they carried, the burden that no one understood, the heaviness that followed them into nights when they could not sleep, the burden weighing on their heart even as they tried their best to smile. He saw everything. He saw the tears they quickly wiped before anyone noticed. He watched as their chests tightened when anxiety rose without warning. He saw the silent battles they fought inside their own mind. He saw the pain hidden behind their smile, the hurt they felt no one would understand, the grief they forced themselves to ignore just so they could keep going. The Lord watched his child when the world did not. He listened to the prayers they whispered in the dark. He heard the words they couldn't even speak, the ones forming only in their heart because they were too tired to speak them. He was there as their tears fell onto their pillow. He counted every single one of them. Not one tear fell without his notice. Not one cry went unheard. Not one moment of breaking went unseen. There were nights they lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering why life had become so heavy. Nights when they felt trapped in their own thoughts. Nights when they wondered if they would ever find peace again. He sat beside them in those moments. They did not feel him, but he was closer than the blanket covering their body. When they held their breath to quiet their close sobs, he held them. When their heart ached so deeply that they felt it ache physically, the Lord wrapped his presence around them and kept them from collapsing under the heavy weight. They carried grief they did not know how to explain. They carried wounds that were never healed properly because they had to move forward before they were ready. They carried responsibilities that were far too heavy for one heart. They carried pain from people who should have loved them better. They carried guilt over things that were never their fault. They carried expectations, fear, shame, disappointment, all of it, layering itself over their soul piece by piece, until they felt they were suffocating under the weight. And yet they kept going. Even when everything in them begged to stop, they moved forward. They woke up every day with a tired spirit, but still made it through. They showed up for others even when they were empty. They gave love while feeling unloved. They encouraged people while silently breaking. They carried others even when their own legs were shaking. Heaven watched that precious child do all of this, and heaven wept with them and for them. Only God knew how many times they wanted to quit. More times than they admitted, even to themselves. There were moments they looked at their life and thought, I can't do this anymore. There were days they whispered to themselves, I'm tired. I'm so tired. There were times when their heart felt too weak to face another day. They told no one, but he heard every single thought. He felt every tremble in their spirit. He knew how close they came to quitting, and every time they were about to stumble, the Lord stepped in, sometimes in ways they never recognized. A sudden moment of peace that came out of nowhere. That was him, quiet calm in the midst of panic. That was him, sudden strength that helped them get through just one more day. That was him, a word from someone speaking directly to their deep pain. That was him, a moment they almost fell but didn't. That was him holding them up. We often think we are alone in our struggles, but he is closer to us in our pain than in our comfort. To his children who hurt, his heart bends toward them. When they cry, he is near. When they feel completely abandoned, he draws closer. When they feel weak, he surrounds them. They may have felt alone, but they were never truly alone. He was with them in the darkness, in the heaviness, in the confusion, in the fear. He never once pulled away from them. Heaven recorded every moment of their bind, every night spent in tears, every silent prayer, every day they felt numb, every time they held their chest, trying to steady their breath. It is all written before him. Each moment will be repaid with something far greater. They do not suffer without purpose in his hands. They do not weep without harvest. They do not break without rebuilding. They do not lose without return. Nothing they endured was wasted, not even the parts that felt pointless. not even the moments that seemed unbearable, not even the seasons that looked like purelos. They write Amen. They stand firm in faith if nothing can shake their trust in him. They may not see the meaning yet, but every tear was planted into their future. Every heartbreak softened the soil of their soul so he could plant new life. Every disappointment redirected their steps toward better things. Every lonely moment shaped their character, strengthened their heart, and sharpened their spirit. Every weight they carried became a testimony heaven will use to lift others. For his children, he is repaying every moment. For every tear, he will give joy that never leaves. For every sleepless night, he will give rest that restores. For every heartbreak, he will give healing that reaches deeper than the wound. For every betrayal, he will send relationships that truly he loves them. Through every season of lack, he will provide overflowing abundance. For every moment they felt unseen, he will place them where they are, valued. He never forgot their deep pain. He never overlooked their quiet suffering. He never ignored their desperate cries. He carried them through what they could not handle, and now he will overwhelm them with what they could not imagine. They survived what was meant to break them, and because they survived it, he will bless them beyond measure. They carried weight that was never theirs. Tuhal, now he is lifting it from them. They carried sorrow through days that felt endless. Now he will fill them with joy that never fades. They carried fear that silenced their voice. Now he will grant them peace that no darkness can threaten. His child, everything they endured is turning into something beautiful. Nothing was wasted. Their story is shifting. Their heart is healing. Their life is being restored piece by piece. And very soon, the weight they once carried will become the reason they stand stronger than ever before. His child, he will lift the veil for them. He will show them the truth behind the truth behind the truth. Battles they walked through, battles they thought were random battles, they thought were just part of life, battles they thought were their fault. The attacks they faced were not natural. They were deeply spiritual. The pressure on their mind, the heaviness in their chest, the confusion in their thoughts, the fear that rose out of nowhere, these were not signs of weakness. These were signs of warfare. They did not know how fierce the fight around them was, but heaven did. While they were trying to survive the day, the enemy was trying to destroy their purpose, silence their voice, and break their spirit. They weren't weak, they were tired. They weren't failing. They were fighting battles in the unseen. They weren't losing their mind. Darkness was trying to invade the ground the Lord gave them. The enemy saw something in them that they did not see in themselves. He saw the calling on their life, the destiny written over them, the light inside their heart, the purpose woven into their spirit. He saw how powerful they would become once they healed. He saw how impactful they would be once they stood up again. He saw the new beginning that was coming toward them, and he tried everything to stop them before they reached it. There were attacks against their mind, thoughts that told them they were not enough, thoughts that made them question their worth, thoughts that tried to convince them to quit, thoughts that planted fear where the Lord had planted purpose. The enemy whispered lies into the spirit because he feared the truth the Lord placed inside them. He tried to make their mind a battlefield so their life would lose direction. There were attacks against their heart, emotional wounds, broken relationships, sudden losses, betrayals, loneliness that felt like a shadow sitting on their chest. He wanted their heart to break so deeply that they would close themselves to love, including his. He wanted their heart to lose hope so they would stop expecting anything good. He knew that if he could injure the heart, he could injure their future. There were attacks against their identity, whispers that made them forget who they are, pressure that made them feel small, situations that made them question their place in this world. They were made to doubt their value, doubt their voice, doubt their uniqueness. The enemy knows identity is the foundation of destiny. So he tried to shake it until they could not recognize themselves. There were attacks against their purpose, closed doors, delays, confusion, sudden setbacks, unexpected storms that came right when they were about to move forward. The timing of their battles was never accidental. They always came right before their breakthrough, right before something new, right before something big. The enemy was fighting what heaven was preparing. They have asked the Lord many times, why did everything hit me at once? Why did the pain come so suddenly? Why did the darkness rise when I was trying to change my life? Yet the Lord answered them in every battle, even when they could not hear him, because their new beginning was drawing close. The battles grew fierce because their breakthrough was drawing near. The enemy fights hardest when he knows his time is running out. They were getting close to the place he never wanted them to reach. They were growing. They were awakening. They were breaking out of old patterns. They were breaking free from generational cycles. They were beginning to see themselves the way God sees them, and that terrified the enemy. They thought they barely survived those seasons, but they did more than survive. They overcame. They rose. They endured, not because they were strong enough, but because heaven was shielding them through every attack. They had no idea how many storms were aimed directly at their spirit. They had no idea how many arrows of discouragement were shot their way. They had no idea how many traps were hidden along their path. They had no idea how many times the enemy planned to tear them down completely. But every time darkness tried to strike them, his angels stepped in. When fear pressed against their mind, angels covered them. When depression tried to suffocate them, angels surrounded their spirit. When hopelessness tried to enter them in, that night angels fought for them. When the enemy whispered, "Give up," angels whispered louder, "Hold on." They did not fall because heaven held them upright. His child. The enemy tried to destroy what God planned for them, but he failed. He tried to silence their purpose, but they are still standing. He tried to break their spirit, but they still rise. He tried to fill their mind with darkness, but light still shines inside them. He tried to block their future, but his plan stood firm. They survived because heaven would not let them fall. They thought it was their strength, but it was his shield. They thought it was coincidence, but it was his protection. They thought they were lucky, but they were covered. They thought something inside them kept pushing them forward, but it was his hand on their back guiding them through every storm. They remembered those nights when they felt something holding them together when they were falling apart. That was him. They remembered the moments when they walked through danger without realizing the threat. That was his intervention. They remembered the sudden peace that came in the middle of chaos. That was his voice calming their storm. They remembered the moments when the spirit felt too heavy to continue, but somehow they did. That was his presence lifting them. Every attack that came against them came because of the calling on their life. The enemy saw their potential before they did. He feared the person they were becoming. He feared the strength they developed in the storm. He feared the wisdom they gained in the fire. He feared the faith that grew when everything went dark. He feared the authority they would walk in after surviving the season meant to break them. As his child, they need to understand something. They are dangerous to darkness. They are a threat to the enemy. They carry light that shatters shadows. They carry purpose, shaking the ground of hell. They carry a future that heaven celebrates. That is why they were attacked. Not because they were weak, but because they are chosen. And even now, as they hear these words, darkness trembles because they are waking up to the truth. They are realizing what really happened. They are recognizing that they are not broken. They are rising. They are not defeated. They are transforming. They are not weak. They are anointed. And the enemy cannot stop what he is about to do in their life. They survived every attack because he stood between them and destruction. They made it through storms that were never meant for them. They overcame things they still don't know, were trying to kill their spirit. Heaven fought relentlessly for them. Angels fiercely shielded them. And now because they survived, because they endured and held on, even when everything tried dragging them, Unda, their new beginning has arrived. No attack launched against them will have power in their next chapter. No darkness that tried burying them will enter their new season. No fear that followed them will enter their new beginning. Every battle is behind them now. Every storm has lost its grip. Every assault has been silenced. They survived because heaven would not let them fall. And now they rise because heaven has decreed their breakthrough. He calls his children closer because he is about to show them something that will soften their hearts and open their eyes in ways they never have before. They wept over so many things I thought they lost so many doors. They believed should have opened so many. People they wished had stayed so many. Situations they felt slipped out of their hands. They blamed themselves at times. They felt they weren't enough. They feared they missed something. They believed their prayers went unanswered. But today, God is lifting the veil. He is pulling back the curtain. He is revealing the truth behind the truth, things they never understood. There were silent, unseen interventions, moments where he stepped in front of them, redirecting and protecting them. Music swells, shielding them, clearing the path, and moving obstacles out of their way without them, even knowing they did not see his hand, but it was there. They did not hear his voice, but it was speaking. They did not feel his movement, but he was moving. He has saved them from more than they could ever imagine. For his children there were wrong relationships. He blocked because they would have destroyed their spirit. People they wanted so badly. People they prayed for. People they begged him to keep in their lives, yet they did not see what he saw. They did not see the future storms, the future confusion, the future heartbreak. They did not see the betrayal waiting for them. They only saw their heart's desire, and he saw the danger behind it. So he closed the door. He shut down the connection. He made the communication fade. He allowed their hearts to turn, not to hurt them, but to protect them. They cried for things that would have broken them, and with love, he said no. He blocked what they cried for because it would have broken them. There were opportunities they wanted that he shut down, jobs that did not accept them, places they tried to fit but could not, plans they made that fell apart, not because they lacked ability, but because the path was wrong. If they had walked through those doors, they would have been tied down, slowed down, drained or stuck. They would have settled for less than what the Lord planned. They would have walked into a future that did not align with their spirit. So he closed the door, not as a punishment, but to rescue them. There were decisions they wanted to make, steps they planned to take, and actions they thought were right. But something in their heart felt uneasy. Something told them to wait. Something told them not to move. They called it fear, but it was his voice. He delayed things because moving too soon would have harmed them. He slowed them down so destiny could catch up. He held them still so disaster could pass. They wanted speed, but he needed alignment. There were prayers he did not answer, not because he rejected them, but because he was protecting them. They think unanswered prayers mean abandonment, but they often mean divine intervention. He was saying, not this, not now, not in that way. He was saying, I have something better. Trust me. He was saying, you're asking for crumbs when I prepared a feast. His silence was not absence. It was protection. It was strategy. It was love in a form they didn't recognize. Do his children remember the times they felt like nothing was changing? When they prayed in their times, circumstances stayed the same. When they begged for signs and only heard total silence, they thought God was ignoring them. They thought he was not listening. But the truth is, unseen miracles were happening behind the scenes. He was shifting people, Truly, he was moving hearts. He was aligning timing. He was preparing doors. He was clearing paths. He was holding things together that were falling apart. He was working on layers they could not. Say, come on, men. Those who receive his blessings today are claiming God's promises over their lives. And share this video.